Thank you, friend. Shabbat Shalom. Greetings to you all. I certainly hope that you're all having a wonderful fall and are busily getting ready for this weekend's festivities of Halloween. And happy birthday, Catherine. I hope it's an especially wonderful birthday for you. And Michael, I hope your trip to the European Guitar Show and to see your brand new granddaughter, who you've only seen once, is going to be a fantastic trip for you. And a fascinating event took place while conducting our bi-monthly grief support group the other night. One devoted to loss, whatever its form, not just death. And my old dear friend Tony made a magnificent observation which he shared, which everyone really connected to. Now here is someone who perhaps more than most understands what it means to truly lose yourself. And he said his new philosophy was one of something that he finally understood. Addition by subtraction. We must cut things out to make room for the real things in our lives. We do this on an ongoing basis without always realizing what we are doing. We make room for the new by cutting out the old. We see what we truly have by removing the debris. Now we do it with things, we do it with people, and we do it with beliefs. But it's time to go. It's time for them to go. Thank you, Tony. Addition by subtraction. Now, a great student of mine, a true historian, had noticed the amazing parallels in what we've been reading to what is coming, and made a few comments to me. Among them, he noticed how Egyptian in origin so many of the things were appearing, and how stories now would be replayed later, and the incredible difference between reading this for the first time would be from knowing what would be said in subsequent parshas and subsequent books. Well, that was quite an observation, quite a fantastic observation. Every week, he reads the parsha, thinks about it, may or may not look at the existing midrashim that have been written, meditates on it, and sends me his list of questions and observations. And of course, this makes me think, and I appreciate all of you who ask questions and make me think. And all of these comments, well, they're awesome to read. They're insightful and questioning. And when he doesn't read the Midrashim, it is better than when he does, because it does not hold him back by seeing what our sages may have said. Sometimes when we know what's been written about something, we don't let our imagination and our own ideas come through. And I told him he is busily fulfilling the instructions from God to man as told to Moses. We are to read strange, and things get crazier and stranger by the day. Well, we know more now than we did before, and we make new discoveries all the time. In fact, just a few weeks ago, some new chambers in King Tut's tomb, they think, were discovered. And those just may rewrite our current view of history. Now, I can't wait to see them, having seen the original. Friends, the Torah is not a true historical book. Yes, there is some history in it, but do not take it as history first and foremost. It is a metaphor of life, a teaching tool. Does it matter if Abraham was 75 when he set out, or if he were only 20? His story is the story of following a dream, a passion, the fulfillment of a vision quest, the establishment of his family and his fiefdom, something we all dream of, something man has always dreamt of. His story is about listening to that still small voice. His story is the story of faith and belief, and taking that leap of faith we so often fear to take, the ones that change and define our lives. His story is about family, how we treat our wives, our kids, and what we do for them and to them that has effects that can last a lifetime or longer. His story is about how far we can fall into the world of fear and how long it can take to get back out. The Torah is the book of instruction, the great simile, the great metaphor, but not a great history. Now, last week we saw a perfect example of what can happen. The covenant begins, Genesis 15:7, with God saying to Abraham, I brought you out of Ur. Abraham later sends his servant to get away for Isaac, saying, go to my land and my birthplace. And the servant goes to Haran. Now, our sages try to resolve this by stretching meanings. Friends, there's nothing wrong with more than one source, each of whom have a slightly different story, as we have seen several times already, with them being combined to create a richer text. And what we have had for the last several thousand years is the richer text. And this passage just happens to be one of the few instances in which the combination has produced an irreconcilable contradiction. It happens. It's not the only one. It's not the only one you're going to see. Now, this week, we read the fourth of the four parts that summarize just about everything. The first two were cosmic and told us how our universe and time were created. These last two are the story of man and how every relationship we ever had, have, and will have come to be. And this one contains the pivotal reading in Judaism, the Akedah, read every High Holy Day. One filled with mystery. Now, what better day to read about angels and magic and demons than the non-Jewish Purim, All Hallows Eve, Halloween week? And having realized too late that it was upon us, I could not find an appropriate costume to wear for this week. So I simply took one of my crowns. To some it could be a crown of thorns. To others it's one of Dionysus's crowns. And who can forget this classic? The scene was rocking, all were digging the sounds. Igor on chains, backed by his baying hounds. The coffin bangers were about to arrive with their vocal group. The Crypt Kicker 5, they played the mash. They played the Monster Mash. Good old Bobby Boris Pickett and the Monster Mash. And one of the band, my friends, one of the Crypt Kickers, was the great Leon Russell. Friends, this week we have Vayera, and he appeared. The he being some angels, or perhaps ghosts. And if last week we had the Carl Perkins Go Cat Go Parsha, this week we have Bob Dylan's Highway 61 Revisited. Now, we talked about getting some puppets for the show, and a lot of you really like the idea. Michael especially liked it. And I was not able to, but I do have some reasonable facsimiles in the interim, which I will be using momentarily. But, I'm still going to be working on getting, proper puppets. Now, 3 visitors come to tell Abraham and Sarah that they're going to have a baby. And we see the origin of the Abrahamic tradition of hospitality, something that has become a cornerstone to the faith and is beautifully practiced still to this day. And we have confusion as the 3 becomes 1 and then 2. The text reflects a fusion of 2 traditions, one in which there were 3 visitors, another in which there was 1. And that would help explain the switch from singular to plural early on in the story. Now, here is our puppet of Abraham and the 3 visitors. And take a good look at the visitor on Abe's left. He looks a little bit like this guy here. Now, if I ask who this is, now just about everybody will tell me that this fellow here is an angel. And the dead giveaway is probably the wings. Now take a good look at the fellow on Abe's left. He has wings also. This way you know he's an angel. But actually, all 3 of the visitors are angels. Make no mistake, friends. We have here the first Annunciation scene in the Bible with all of the pieces. The fact of barrenness, the promise of a son by God or angel or holy man, and the fulfillment of the promise in conception and birth. Now, the most famous Annunciation scene would be the Annunciation of the birth of Jesus. Although this one, based on the facts, a really old post-menopausal couple, is certainly the more miraculous of the 2. And if you've never seen it, look at the Leonardo da Vinci painting of the Annunciation. It is truly otherworldly. Now, this parsha concludes the Abrahamic tales with the paramount reading in Judaism, the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, the story that stands at the epicenter of belief and trust and faith and obedience. See, all of Abraham's tests were tests of obedience. And from the beginning, You also know that the relationship between God and Isaac would be different than any other relationship at all. After all, Isaac is the only person in the Bible whom God himself names. So we have a story that really centers on angels. Angels. From the Greek, angelos. Now the Hebrew is malach, which means messenger, and is the same root as the word for king, which is melech. And the king is also considered a messenger. Friends, the word angel is not a biblical Hebrew word. They are the messengers of God, and every angel in the Bible and in the Torah is referred to as a messenger. These texts indicate that angels are rather conceived of as expressions of God's presence. The consistent biblical conception of God, other than in the garden, is that God cannot possibly be seen by a human. We will be told in Exodus 33:20, human will not see me and live. We also know that God cannot possibly be contained in any known space. The heavens will not contain you. 1 Kings 8:27. God in this conception can nonetheless make himself known to humans by a sort of emanation from the Godhead that is visible to human eyes. An angel is an identifiable thing itself, and in some ways is merely a representation of divine presence in human affairs. Now, of course, it's interesting that these angels who were visiting Abraham eat, and of course God never eats. Now, what we see looks like people. So Abraham can see three men, but still talk to a singular God. And later Jacob can wrestle with that night spirit and say he saw God face to face. How do you know? It's like when you see the movie Michael, and he's just standing there and talking. You're not sure if it's just John Travolta, but when you see his wings unfold, you know he is an angel. You angel, you got me under your wing. The way you walk and the way you talk, I feel I could almost sing. That would be miraculous, that Bob Dylan song, You Angel You. We've all heard his voice. If he could sing, that would be something else. Now, the visitation by these angels to Abraham serves two purposes. The first is the setup for the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. The second is what has been considered the last of the 10 tests of Abraham, the binding of Isaac. And of course, we have controversy. Is this the same Abraham we've seen before? Genesis 18:23. And Abraham came over and said, will you also annihilate the virtuous with the wicked? He's about to begin his bargaining with God. The same guy who, when God said, go cat, go to where I'll show you, he simply gets up and goes. The same guy to whom God will say shortly, take Isaac and go to where I say. And he gets up and goes. Who will then be told to sacrifice Isaac, and he binds him to the altar. For this one moment only, not for the life of his own son, he decides to argue with God and negotiate. He starts the bargaining at 50 and settles at 10. The defining number, my friends, you know, that it's the number that's needed in the future for a minyan, the religious quorum needed for observation of anything. It's a magical number for the Kabbalists, the number of spheres on the tree of life. And of course, it is the number of commandments in the Decalogue. Now, with the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, Lot's family is saved. He is told to leave, and he's told, don't look behind you and don't stop in all of the plain. This story, my friends, is a parallel to the flood. 2 times the population is wiped out, first with water, then with fire. God knows it's a struggle. God knows it's a crime. God knows there's going to be no more water, but fire next time. What happens? And his wife looked behind him, and she was a pillar of salt. Friends, look forward in life, not backwards. Do not dwell on the past. Look ahead. It was long ago and it was far away. Oh God, it seems so very far. And if life is just a highway, then the soul is just a car, and objects in the rearview mirror may appear closer than they are. That, of course, from Bat Out of Hell 2. Friends, do not look back. Now, this famous story concludes with Lot having sex with his daughters, which actually gives us a clue as to something that will happen later that seems completely unconnected. And the elder bore a son, called his name Moab. Now, other than Ruth, the Moabites are not looked upon favorably in the Bible, and we see that they are descended from one of the forbidden relationships. Therefore, they are all tainted in perpetuity. It's amazing how you begin to see the intertwining of events that may not play out for 1,000 years. Now, out of the blue, we then have another wife-sister episode, almost the same as that with Pharaoh in Egypt, practically word for word with the same results, except here, for the only time in the Bible, God refers to Abraham as a prophet. And Abraham acknowledges the real relationship with Sarah, Genesis 20:12. And also, she is, in fact, my sister, my father's daughter, but not my mother's daughter, and she became a wife to me. Now, I've never understood why this episode is here, and why it's so similar to the other one. I simply accept it for what it is. It is a segue into the two readings that take place during the High Holy Days. First, the banishment of Hagar and Ishmael. Again, something Abraham simply allows to happen without any argument. And then Genesis 22:1. And it was after these things, and God tested Abraham. And he said to him, Abraham. And he said, I am here. Now, interestingly, some ancient scrolls have double name calling here. And we've talked about it and will again. Abraham, Abraham. But the Masoretic text does not, and that is the one that we follow. But friends, it makes sense that it would have had it. The proper response is given. I am here. And boy, if this isn't a life-defining moment, I don't know what is. Now, what stands out about Abraham is that his life-defining moment comes here in the Akedah, rather than the first time that God speaks to him. This marks the near sacrifice as the defining event in Abraham's life and in the destiny of his descendants. And he said, take your son, your only one whom you love, Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah and make him a burnt offering there on one of the mountains that I'll say to you. And this scene, of course, was immortalized in Highway 61 Revisited. God said to Abraham, kill me a son. Abe said, man, you must be putting me on. God say no. Abe said what? God said you can do what you want, Abe, but the next time you see me coming, you better run. Well, Abraham fights for the lives of the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, but not for the life of Isaac. What a powerful juxtaposition to be read in the same parsha. When God tells Abraham, the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah, how great it is, and their sin, how very heavy it is. Let me go down and I'll see if they've done. Abraham's response is to be the first human in the Bible's history to challenge a divine decision. But when God tells him, take your son, your only one whom you love, Isaac, and offer him as a burnt offering, the response is, and Abraham got up early in the morning. Now, even if you stretch and say his objection is mainly his concern for Lot, still, that's a nephew. Isaac is a son. Even if it's his compassion for those morally challenged people of Sodom, still, there must also be compassion for his son. And if it is his sense of justice, is there less of a case for justice in connection with sacrificing an innocent Isaac than in the matter of the destruction of those very guilty people? Now, this is the most incredible father-son episode in history. And the penultimate moment in Judaism takes place. Genesis 22:4. On the third day, and Abraham raised his eyes and saw the place from a distance. And Abraham said to his boys, sit here with the ass, and I and the boy will go over there, and we'll bow and we'll come back to you. The final test, the sacrifice of Isaac, which we know gets stopped. And these are the same words, and this is the exact same scene that will also play out again later. It happens in the Balaam episode, one of 10 preordained moments in the Bible, and the one that has confounded scholars the most. Well, we do not know what happened between father and son, but we do know this defined both of their lives. Friends, what are the defining moments of your life? The world is sacred, my friends, and so is everything in it. Express your gratitude, light a candle, make a wish, celebrate your life and the lives of those you love, share your feelings with them. Live free, be free, honor your freedom, be well, be happy, be blessed. Share and honor the light in all who live in the light and continue to shine. Continue to send everybody you know goodwill and love. Pray for peace and freedom for everyone. We're all entitled to it. Pray for an end to terror, an end to hatred. Remember, friends, we are a community. We learn together, we celebrate each other, we love each other. We share this ride together, men and women equally. Let us send out love, not fear. Ask questions. Look forward, not backward. Break free of dogma. Change your way of thinking and follow the call of freedom. The journey is yours to enjoy. I was once like you are now, and I know that it's not easy to be calm when you've found something going on. But take your time. Think a lot. Think of everything you've got. For you will still be here tomorrow. But your dreams may not. Thank you all. Love you. Thank you, Cat Stevens. See you all next time. And I do love seeing you all again. And remember, your wishes do come true. Bless you all. Have a fantastic week. A great Halloween week. And thank you for joining me. Shabbat Shalom. Take care. Bye.